it's okay to think outside the cookie cutter or the box or whatever,
Right.
and to build on interest. And instead of it can be very easy as well to see what you're not doing or what your kids are not doing, but focusing on what is working, and then those aha moments where the little light bulb goes off, trying to focus on that type of thing and where they're making progress rather than where their weakness might be per se, and just building on those strengths, I think can be really huge for your kids, but then also for yourself.
Welcome to Homeschool Talks, a podcast by HSLDA. This is a show about all things homeschooling, from practical tips to inspiring stories and everything in between. This episode of Homeschool Talks features a conversation originally hosted live on our Facebook page. So if you like what you hear, be sure to follow us there for more content like this. We're so glad you've joined us today, and we hope you enjoy the program.
Hello, everyone. I am so glad you're here with us today. I'm looking forward to our discussion with Amy Milcic today. So we're excited you're going to join us. This is going to be a time of encouragement. This is Amy's specialty, to encourage homeschoolers. So I'm Heather Frommack, Director of Outreach and Educational Consulting at HSLDA. Thank you for being here today, Amy. Amy Milcic is all about tips and resources for helping active little ones. So that's what we're going to focus on today. Who knows, our conversation will be directed by questions we may get. But you, Amy, are a homeschooling influencer, which is an actual title these days. And I was looking at your blog, your website. It's full of really encouraging tips, practical resources that people can use. And you run, is it a business really called Rock Your Homeschool, right?
Yeah, it's morphed into that. Yeah. So
that is an interesting part of your story too. I'd love to hear that, how homeschooling actually turned into a business. I'm sure other people would love to hear that too. You have 5 boys and a lot of experience with active kids in soccer, kids doing all sorts of things out on your land. So tell us a little bit about your homeschooling story. How'd you get started?
Well, let's see. My 2 older boys, who are now 18 and 16, they did attend a few years of public school. We just thought we'd give it a go and see how that went. Mm-hmm. But my oldest boy has a congenital eye condition in his right eye. That's called morning glory disc anomaly, just in case you're wondering. And that's just basically that his optic nerve in his right eye never fully attached. Mm-hmm. So he does have 10% peripheral vision in that eye and complete vision in the left eye. So anyways, about 3rd grade, the font gets a little bit smaller, mm-hmm, and a lot of whiteboard, and he had a lot of eye strain that was causing severe headaches, migraines, nausea.
No.
And I'd be picking him up from school. Mm-hmm. Was not getting a lot of cooperation from the school with accommodations and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So talked with his specialist, and he recommended homeschooling. And I was like, what? Because at that time I was pregnant with our 4th. I had a toddler, and I'm like, what? And then I'm like,
coming home?
That's hard. And then I thought about it a lot. I prayed. I found actually a local homeschool friend who was super supportive with me. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. Let's see if this can work for our family. And then it was a chain reaction. Mm-hmm. They all wanted to do it. And now we've just been doing this for now almost 10 years. So
10 years later. So when you first started, did you have community? We were talking earlier about the situation you have now with community, but really when you get started, that is an important part, which is why so many of us are turning to Facebook. So tell us a little bit about your community journey that you've had with homeschooling.
Well, like I said, I knew one person.
That was it. Oh, that was the beginning. That was it. Okay.
In our area, it's not, I'm not going to say it's not popular. It's just not, we live in a rural area. Mm-hmm. So it's not very populated as is. So I just didn't, I only knew one. And then she introduced me to our evaluator so that I knew two. And so I did turn online looking for, I think there was forums a lot back then.
So this was 10 years ago or so?
Yeah, about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I didn't have any clue what I was doing whatsoever.
Right. How can you when you first start?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So then slowly started to just feel a little bit more comfortable with it, but mostly it was online community, even Facebook groups and that type of thing that really helped me feel like, okay, I can do this. And like just opening my eyes to different approaches and curriculum choices and all of that. So yeah, and then I did join HSLDA right away because I just felt most comfortable with that because being in Pennsylvania, I know it's like the homeschool requirements here are pretty strict. So I just wanted that coverage as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and also what a lot of people don't realize about HSLDA is that we also have a whole team of educational consultants that can also step in to help with that nitty-gritty stuff, because everybody starts, or most everybody starts like where you did, like, okay, what is homeschooling? But you managed to go straight into the community online and found the resources that you needed. So would you mind sharing a little bit about the challenges you had and the successes with raising 5 boys through different seasons in the homeschooling journey that you've had so far?
Well, sure. I mean, I guess it's just been mostly like that they're all different. And, like I kind of was going into it. Like, so my background, like my parents were both teachers. I went to public school. So I was just like very used to this whole mindset of like, you sit still, you do this, or whatever.
Yes.
So I think one of the biggest challenges was that like, I have very active voice, like from when they're little, well, even in utero, but like till now, and they like to move and they like hands-on. And I, at first was like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, how do I help them learn in our house? And like, are we doing this right? So that was a big challenge for me. And just like learning to kind of shift and know that it's okay to be busy and that they're still learning. So that was a big challenge. Another challenge with with my boys, and I'm not sure if this, I think probably some girls have this too, but like they had trouble communicating like their thoughts and feelings because they're so little, but also like even as they get older, tweens and teens, just communicating. And my background is in psychology and counseling. So I feel like I've kind of helped them learn how to express themselves a little bit better with that. So that was a challenge as well. Just like with their schoolwork and being able to say, I'm struggling with this, like I'm having a hard time. So, because like school came pretty easy to me. So I just went into it thinking, oh, this isn't too bad. And then when they had their own challenges, it was like, okay, I had to help them learn how to express that. So
yeah, and that's such a valuable and rich part of the homeschooling experience. I think so often we think of it, just like you're sharing, we think of homeschooling as school, as the teaching part. But the fact that you were able to step in and be there to help your boys learn how to communicate, how to advocate for themselves, how to be self-aware, to understand what was challenging. What a gift that you have given them. What great husbands you are preparing. Men who can communicate deeply and well. I mean, that's a skill all of us need to learn, but that was probably a really rich part of the personality of your unique homeschooling. Did you struggle feeling like, wow, we're spending all this time talking about how you're feeling or how I'm feeling? Did you ever feel like, oh, we're never going to get to the school part? Or were you able to embrace that was really important? No. Yes, you're shaking your head.
No, I did. Because sometimes I felt like we would be spending an hour and a half, like as my boys call it now, processing. They need to process.
Yes, processing.
And I think it's wonderful that they have that knowledge. But sometimes I'm like, okay, now we need to get on a little bit. So I'll say, if you will have a 10-minute process session.
It became something they enjoyed, which is a testimony to how well you communicated that. We, in our homeschool, when the kids would have conflict, or when I would have conflict with them, we had this room in the house we called the parlor. And so it would just be, parlor time. And so my kids have had many hours with me, with each other in the parlor. They'll refer back to them. 2 of them are married and said, thank you for parlor time, because that has really helped me communicate, work through conflict with my spouse. So I know that you're preparing good husbands for the future. And that's really important. And we have Julie, who says she has a 15-and-a-half-year-old son that won't tell her when he's struggling. And she said she thinks it's a product of the public school experience. Since this is really kind of part of your wheelhouse, do you have some encouragement for Julie, tips for her to help her begin those conversations?
Well, Julie, first of all, I think that's incredibly, unfortunately, normal. And the 2 that I have had the most challenge with on that are the 2 that went to public school, because although like in preschool, they were very open and willing to ask questions and put themselves out there. I noticed as they were progressing, like through 3rd grade, through grades, that went down a lot. Because I think that they were afraid. They didn't want to look different. They were afraid to like say, well, I don't know how to do this. Or just look a little bit different. And so I think that's very normal. And so what I just do, and what I did and what I continue to do, is like, I just try to make observations. Like, I noticed that you are, your forehead's wrinkled, or you're starting to really grip your pencil tightly. Let's take a break. Let's slow down, maybe get a snack or go outside for a little walk and then come back to it. And then, and oftentimes too, another really helpful thing is like, if we would work on something side by side, they don't have to look at me directly. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but like when you're in the car, they'll just start opening up, and it's like the floodgates are open. That's when things would start to come out. Like, I'm just really I just can't get this multiplication. I keep trying. It's just not sticking, or whatever the concept is. And that's when the thing, like sometimes outside of the homeschool experience, like when we're washing and drying dishes or something, it would all just like come out. So I think sometimes just like kind of pulling back a little bit and making those observations just very neutral and not loaded with like concerns and worry, but just like, I'm just noticing what's going on with you and just inviting them to talk about it can help.
That's such a great tip, because in that approach, you're not only, I love the word you use, inviting, it's no pressure, it's not stress, it's just an invitation to share your feelings and your thoughts, but you're also, by pointing out, hey, I notice you're gripping your pen more tightly, or you're wrinkling your forehead. You're teaching your children to be self-aware in ways that most of us need help with, because we don't even recognize how stress is building or how we might be responding. So that's a great tip. And I also love what you said about going side by side. I have noticed we have 2 girls and 3 boys, primarily with 2 of my sons being side by side, doing things, whether it's laying down after they've gone to bed and listening, or like you said, in the car, and not looking them straight in the eye, seems to invite more of that freedom. Not sure why that is. Maybe you do, but it seems to be really helpful.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why, but it just does seem to work. And
it does.
I find that sometimes when we're going to soccer matches, like that's all of a sudden when like all this stuff starts coming out, and I'm like, okay,
should we pull over? Are we still going to the soccer game, or we need to talk? Process. I love that word. Yeah. Well, so we also have a lot of people here who have little ones. We have Shalita. Forgive me if I'm not saying your name properly, but she has 3, 6, 8, and 9-year-olds. We have 2, 5, and 7-year-olds. So what kinds of tips do you have for people who are maybe just entering this homeschooling thing, or maybe they're even just thinking about it, thinking, how am I going to educate one while I've got these other little ones? Do you have some thoughts for people in that space?
Yes, that it's okay. You don't have to do it all at once. It's okay to take it bit by bit. I found, excuse me, that just starting off with my older 1 or 2, depending on how many kids you have.
Right.
Just like on maybe math or reading or whatever, getting started with that and excuse me,
That's okay.
having some quiet activities that the little ones can do, or if you're lucky enough that your kids are still like the little guys are taking a nap,
Yes.
nap time can be a good time to do it. But I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves to like we have to get all of this done, and I have this checklist, and oh my gosh, they're going to be behind and these gaps, and they're not. They're going to be okay. And it's really about like learning how to work together as a family and figuring out your groove or your routine. And like the little guys are going to want to get in there with the big guys if you know they're not taking a nap or whatever, and that like figuring out, okay, how can I tweak this, or how can I make them feel a part of it, even just having a coloring page. So I don't know if that helps or not, but I just found like that, and having some quiet activities like busy bags, those were really big when my younger two were I don't know if that's still a popular thing or not, but like having like those felt pieces.
Yes, it's a genius thing to do. They should be popular if they're not. And let me just say, those are good for grown-ups. Those are good for any age. If you need to just help some kids have a little bit of downtime or a break while you focus on one, busy bags are a great idea.
We always have like a box. I still do. And it's just like as the boys have gotten older, it's kind of morphed, but of small, quiet toys, or even like Legos.
Yeah.
I always let them have something like that. Play-Doh. Like I'm a big Play-Doh person, though. I know that's not everybody's thing. But
Play-Doh's awesome.
yeah, like just having some hands-on things to keep the hands busy, and then that can keep the focus and the attention. And then while you're working with the other ones, I have found that to be the biggest help. And I feel like I'm all over, but one of the ways that we've been organizing all of that lately is with a rolling cart. Have you seen those?
Well, I want to talk about rolling carts. I want to make sure we answer Nicole's question. She's asking, what is a busy bag? So would you want to explain that real quick?
Well, busy bag, I mean, okay, I'm just going to go to Pinterest, search busy bag.
There you go, busy bag.
Thousands of ideas, all different themes, topics, materials. I had like a whole collection of, I cut out felt pieces, like for my little ones, like colors, numbers, holidays, and like have an outline. You can make them yourself. I guess you can.
Right.
I'm not sure. And so much fun. They're actually learning as they're doing it, and it's quiet and it's soft. They can't hurt themselves. And then like there's like little things like with as they get older, like wooden beads, and just like putting them on pipe cleaners.
So many things. So many things.
I think they're actually learning skills and learning themselves as they use it, which is so cool, and it's keeping them quiet.
It is a double benefit. Heather mentions another name is a tot tray. I'm sure there's lots of different names. Absolutely.
Sensory bins.
Sensory bins are huge. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's so it's fun for the kids because they don't know what's going to be in the bag that day. And it's also fun for you because covertly, you know, okay, I'm trying to work with fine motor skills here, so I'm going to put these things in. Yeah. And so there's lots of ways you can incorporate these things. And I think one of the things, Amy, that you're sharing and emphasize even on your blog, which I highly recommend, Rock the Homeschool. It's full of so many wonderful, encouraging ideas. But is the fact that when you're homeschooling, you're incorporating all the day-to-day life, and you're recognizing it's a mindset of embracing, well, this is valuable time. It is enriching my child, whether it's learning to be self-aware or communicate or work through conflict or process. All of those things are valuable in that homeschool journey, and they help keep kids busy if it's a busy bag. So Modest is asking, can you give a sample of a daily schedule for a second grader and a kindergartner? This is my first year. Most days I feel like we're doing great, and other days I'm second guessing myself. Hey, join the family. We are all second guessing ourselves at different times for sure. But I think too, one of the things that I'll mention that I'd love to hear you expand upon, Amy, is that when you're homeschooling little ones like that, it doesn't have to take nearly as long as we think it does it?
That's absolutely 110% correct. Look, that was another thing that was very hard for me. I had this idea that like school had to be from like 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and we're going to fit, cram all this stuff in, and busy work. That's another thing I had to give up.
Mm.
Busy activities, busy bags, they're good. But you don't have to have the busy work per se, unless I guess your kids like it.
What do you mean when you say busy work? Help
busy
people
work,
understand.
like just like, okay, so let's say you have your reading assignment and answering questions, either writing or conversation, maybe even a hands-on thing, but then like throwing on tons of worksheets,
Okay.
and all that stuff just to say that you did it doesn't.
The box checking things that aren't really meaningful.
Right. It's quality, not quantity per se, So yeah, so I mean, like a kindergartner, depending, I don't know if you're using a specific curriculum or not too, because that could have a difference, I guess. I mean, like sometimes they can get their work done in 45 minutes if they're like focused, or even like an hour and a half, maybe. And that's okay. I mean, just depends on like where they are, what they're working on. And then having multiple kids, like different ages. One of the best things about homeschooling is that we've been able to combine subjects for certain ones. And that has been amazing. Oh my gosh. Like history is so much fun at different levels. 'Cause like the big guys can like teach the little guys some stuff, and they still like the hands-on things. Like they still like making, like the petrified whatever. I mean,
petrified whatever. That's a little scary. I think a range of things that are petrified in a house full of 5 boys. Well, yeah, and I think that's such a good point, that you're always looking for ways as a homeschooling family to make it a family gig. So if it's history or read-alouds or literature or field trips, that's such a wonderful side benefit, or maybe really one of the primary reasons some people homeschool. Has that been something you found, that by integrating your boys in different things, that their relationship with each other has been fostered?
Yes. They will tell you that they are each other's best friends. Like certain ones will push each other's buttons.
Yeah.
And I think in a larger family, that's just normal. But when we're out and about, like they gravitate to each other. And now my oldest one is working, and when he comes home from work, it's like the younger ones are all like, "Oh, you're home now!" And it's just like, "Oh my gosh,
that's so great."
So they have really good relationships. I'm very thankful for that.
That is a huge part. And I think that, again, just reminding people that is as valuable as anything we might call school. Those relationships, and those relationships are going to last long beyond the other things that they might remember. So you have 5 boys, as we've mentioned, and you've also talked about, at least we were talking beforehand, how stereotypically boys are not big fans of sitting still for long periods of time. Right. So what are some things you've learned along the way to help other parents with kids who don't want to sit for a stereotypical school day?
Yeah, I think that, I think that can be for girls too, because I have a hard time sitting still. If you can't tell, I'm sitting here like moving.
It's not just a boy thing.
I have a hard time just sitting still for 20 minutes. So, I mean, I just feel like that could be a little bit of personality as well.
Yes.
But I think that it's like one of the biggest things that we, has helped our family, and I think can help others that I've gotten good feedback on. We take we call them brain breaks, where I like build into our day fun little things that we're still kind of learning, depending on what it is. But knowing that like we're going to get up, move around, do something, really helps, because then they know, okay, I don't have to sit here for an hour at a time. I have to be here for 15 minutes. And that's my thing. 15 minutes, focus. Let's do this.
Very Charlotte Mason kind of approach. Is that a part of what you've integrated? No.
I have no idea.
Well, then, let me tell you, you have good company in that 15-minute segment. So lots of support.
We're eclectic. So maybe I do. I don't unintentionally. But yeah, so like just like staying focused, and then get up, move around, do something fun. jumping jacks. Like my boys have like gone outside and run laps around the house, like
Yes,
whatever.
right. Whatever
Um,
works.
and so that's been really helpful. I'm trying to think what else. So your question was like what to do when they're like really busy and active and
Yeah, or maybe another way to think of it is, one of your big messages is the joy that people can have in homeschooling. Lots of times, especially for those who are new, it can feel overwhelming, especially if they were kind of
yeah.
thrown into it. But you love to talk about how to find joy in the homeschool and how to encourage that. So maybe let's take that track as we think about homeschooling. What would you like to share
Sure.
about that?
I think like just finding the joy. It's sometimes like with ourselves, like I keep talking about the mindset and stuff, but like
Yeah, it's
um
important.
realizing that like we might go into it with our own expectations of like what learning is supposed to look like and these like little cookie cutters and like we got to try to like force our kids into them and it doesn't have to be that way. Like it's okay to think outside the cookie cutter or the box or whatever,
Right.
and to build on interest and instead of like it can be very easy as well to like see what you're not doing or what your kids are not doing, but focusing on what is working and then like those aha moments where like the little light bulb goes off, trying to focus on that type of thing and where they're making progress rather than like where their weakness might be per se, and just like building on those strengths I think can be really huge for your kids but then like also for yourself. And I think that's another thing too, is like we focus so much on our kids, which is awesome, and we should.
Right.
But like as a homeschooler yourself, you will notice as you go through this how much you grow as a person and how much you learn, and giving yourself a pat on the back because it's like you're doing amazing things too, and that's being a fantastic role model for your kids. So
Right, especially as you're learning alongside and getting excited about the things that you're learning. For sure, the best education I've ever had has been through homeschooling.
oh
I
yes,
have a college degree and a master's degree almost done. I'm still thinking homeschooling was the best education I've ever had.
oh absolutely. Like I was a complete nerd in high school and I had my master's and all of that, but I have learned so much beside my boys. And it's been amazing. And I look forward to it. Like, I mean, not, you have your good and your bad days.
For sure.
But, and subjects that I prefer and don't prefer to take.
Yes.
And that's, like, that's why outsourcing can be, that's another good tip that you can outsource as well. You don't have to take it all on yourself.
That's right.
But yeah, it can be an amazing thing. It's like, it's how you approach it and how you think about it, I think is a huge part of it.
Yeah, and you talk a lot about self-care on your website too. And I agree with you that as homeschooling parents, specifically moms, we can dedicate so much to what we think our kids need, that we can lose sight of ourselves and we get discouraged and burned out. And then, it's like that phrase, if mom is not happy, nobody's happy. And especially in a homeschooling setting, if you're not taking care of your emotional, relational, spiritual needs, it's going to be really difficult for you to create a space where learning feels positive. And so I really appreciate your emphasis on that.
Yeah, and it's hard. I'm sorry.
No,
I was going to say,
okay.
I know it's hard too when you have little ones and they need you. They need your time in a different way than when you have older kids, but they really do need you. Like they need you to be there physically and watching them all the time. And that can be so draining. But there are things that sometimes we have to shift our mindset with that as well. Like you can still have self-care when you have even a newborn or whatever. It's just like adjusting how we look at it and going, okay, I might want an hour, but I get this 5 minutes. So I'm going to use this 5 minutes doing whatever I need right now for me. So I just wanted to add that. I'm sorry.
No, please don't be sorry. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for practical tips. How do we do this thing? And I think that there's obviously, as some have brought up, there's a lot on YouTube. There's lots of different places you can go. HSLDA's website has a huge amount of wonderful resources as well. Your website. But I think hearing it from another person in the trenches is a whole nother zone. We're not here to put on our best front and make it all seem any particular way. We're here to get real about it and to really share the practical aspect of living through this awesome and challenging adventure. If I wanted to throw just a thought back to you, were talking earlier about making time and focusing on what's going well and remembering that even in the midst of what's not going well. We used to keep a journal. I would keep a journal on my desk nearby where we'd homeschool. And if the kids said something funny, or if they were profound, or it was a challenge of the day, I would write it down, and then we could read it periodically through the week at night at dinner time and laugh about it and look back. And that really helped me realize we're making progress. I could look back and go, that's what he said a year ago, but look at what he's saying now. So that was an encouraging.
I love that idea.
Yeah, it's been fun. And it's been fun to look back, especially years later. It's a pretty hilarious thing to look at, the things people say. But it does remind you that this process goes by faster than we think. I mean, you've got a kid graduated now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And I think it would be awesome too for you. This is your son who had the vision challenges, right?
Yes.
So for those who are homeschooling and maybe in the middle or the beginning and wondering what the end looks like, especially for a child who might have some differences or challenges, can you share a little bit about how he has arrived at such a great place? What are some of the steps along the way?
Support, encouragement. We did adaptations at home. If necessary, he didn't necessarily need bigger print or anything like that. He did need less screen time. So I had to be mindful of that when he would be taking classes. As he got older, he prefers things in print. It's just easier for him to read, or that he could adjust his screen. But, just encouraging him along the way. He's a very hands-on learner. He likes to get in there and figure things out. And we struggled a lot with what he might want to do for his future and his career. And he did end up deciding, well, he's taking a gap year right now and working on a construction site, doing all different types of things. And he knew he wanted to get into a trade. So now he's decided he wants to become an electrician and pursue that path. So we're super excited for him.
Yes.
And just letting him, he covered all his core subjects and he graduated, got his diploma here in Pennsylvania. But just really helping him build on his strengths and what worked for him, I think has helped the most.
Well, and that's one of the privileges of being a mom who's with your kids, or a parent with your kids a lot, is really looking for those strengths and reminding them of that so they can be encouraged. And he obviously has found that in his home and is off to a great future. Gap years are very awesome too, by the way, for anybody thinking about that. Gap years can be so helpful. So we have a question from Nano. She says her 6-year-old won't sit still when she does reading. Any tips? I don't know how else we can learn phonics and reading without sitting down and not moving so much. Any thoughts about that, Amy?
Well, yeah, there has to be some, I guess, sitting down, right? Because then you can see the paper. What we would do would be, like I said, we would take breaks. So 6-year-old is young. So maybe even 5 minutes. Talking. Just talk there. Start there, maybe 2 minutes. And for that age, we would do sight words, little cards and things like that. And just study them. And then 2 minutes, sit there, do that. And then we would get up, and we used to have a trampoline, and he'd be bouncing on there. And I would just say, okay, things like that. Or sight words, hopscotch. Things that kept them moving.
Yeah, good idea. Sight word hopscotch. I like that.
Twister. I used to take a twister board and write words on there with the marker.
Clever. That's a good idea.
And just anything that I could do to help, with that movement, because he needed that. And then, but also make sure there was that expectation of 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Yesterday you did 3. Today we're going to go for 4. Type thing. And because and I understand completely because we think they have to do it a certain way. Sometimes we have to be a little bit flexible and get creative as well.
Yeah.
And again, I always go to Pinterest. That's like my place. And I'm always looking for new ideas of because there's such clever things and tips and how-tos on there, of different ideas of how you can do that for an active 6-year-old with reading. So yeah.
Well, and that I love that you're integrating all those creative ideas too, making it fun or silly. And so I love that you're bringing those things up, because it doesn't have to be sitting still and looking at flashcards. It could be some kids can't learn without moving. I love the idea of the trampoline. I'm just envisioning this card going up and down.
Well, I wasn't on the trampoline. No, I was sitting outside the trampoline.
I think that's pretty cool. Or I've also seen, sometimes two people putting the sight words around the house, and you tape them up, and then there's some kind of game involved. Okay, go find the window, or whatever kinds of ideas. Keeping moving, keeping it fun.
Yeah, like a scavenger hunt. Oh, that can be fun.
That's a great idea. Yes.
And another thing I saw that I did do with my boys is they would try to put their body in the shape of the letter.
There you go. Right. And then the other one has to make the sound. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's fun. Well, you've integrated your kids together too. Well, so many fun tips, so many great ideas. We could talk for hours, but we've already hit 40 minutes. So in the next 5 minutes, what kinds of things would you like to leave people with? Let's see who said it. Somebody said, so glad that you're interviewing Amy. She has so many great ideas. And you do. I do encourage you to check out her website. But before we wrap up, what are some things you'd like to leave people with?
Just homeschooling is a fantastic opportunity to meet your kids where they are and not where we think they're supposed to be. So it's okay if they are not wherever technically, society or whatever says, and meeting them where they are and helping them grow to where their potential and beyond, I think is awesome. And then again, just come back to and remembering that we're learning and growing right alongside them. So you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know everything. It's okay to ask for help and look for new ideas and try things. Try it.
Exactly. Yes.
9 out of 10 times it might not work, but that one time it does, and it's awesome, and build on that.
Right. And everybody can celebrate that one little bit of success that day. Yeah. So many fun ideas. Well, everybody, I want to encourage you to check out Amy's blog and website at rockyourhomeschool.net. You can find her on social media at Rock Your Homeschool, and I think we're going to post a link. And of course, at HSLDA, we're all about making homeschooling possible for you and supporting and encouraging you. So we have lots of resources on our website, and you can, click on search words and find lots of different information about that. But also don't forget that we have our amazing educational consultants. I get to lead that program, and they are a wealth of information. So as members, you can get access to our team, high school, early years, and special needs. So anyway, thank you so much to everyone for joining us. Especially thank you, Amy, for joining. It's so fun talking to you and getting to learn a bit from you and your wisdom you've gleaned all these years. So anyway, goodbye, everyone. Thanks again.
Bye. Thank you. It's been fun.
Today's program is made possible by HSLDA's legal support team. We know homeschooling isn't always easy. That's why we're committed to giving you peace of mind so you can focus on giving your kids the best possible education. As an HSLDA member, you have access to customized legal advice from our team of attorneys to help you comply with your state's homeschool law. And we'll represent you if your right to homeschool is ever challenged, even in court. Every day, we help our members respond to overreaching officials, and we stand ready to defend your homeschool against unlawful attacks. To learn more about how you can enjoy a worry-free homeschool experience, visit hslda.org/join. That's hslda.org/join. Thanks for listening to this episode of Homeschool Talks. If you enjoyed this conversation, leave a review to let us know what you think. To hear more conversations like this one, be sure to subscribe to this podcast or head on over to hslda.org/podcast for more inspiring stories and awesome ideas about homeschooling. That's all for today. We hope you enjoyed the program, and we'll see you next time.